Imagine making your game so crappy that you start to receive death threats from your own player base. That is exactly what has happened with Pokemon Go and its creator Niantic, who have come under extreme scrutiny lately as they have continued to make numerous changes to the game that are near unanimously unfavored. Reaction from players has gotten so bad that some have even begun sending death threats to the employees' personal accounts, which is crazy. So let's go over what happened. I'm sure most of you know what Pokemon Go is. The hit Pokemon in real life mobile game that came out in 2016, been downloaded over 600 million times, and has earned over $4.7 billion. A lot of the game involved going to certain locations in person to take on raid bosses with other trainers, which wasn't possible when COVID happened. In response, Niantic introduced remote raids, a way for people to invite people in your friends list to participate in a raid together online. You always got one in-person raid for free per day, with additional ones for a small fee. But remote raids worked under a different pass. You'd get one free remote pass per week, but with additional passes at $1 each. As remote passes were in the game, players started to rely on them to actually finish raids, since if you didn't live in a big city, having enough trainers together when a raid would go off could be near impossible. After this reliance was built and COVID declined, Niantic removed the free weekly remote pass. The worst change happened last month though, as Niantic increased the price of remote passes to $1.95 each, nearly a 100% increase in price, up from $1. They also made it so you could only join in 5 remote raids per day. This seems like backwards thinking to limit the money people can spend in such fashion, but also seems like it's in very bad faith, since these raids can only offer a chance at catching the boss Pokemon rather than have it be guaranteed. And the stats you receive is a 1 in 216 chance. Niantic claim that these changes are to help encourage people to play more in person again, but don't mention how they got the community to rely on this feature, since completing strong raids in person is near impossible outside of large cities. Many have speculated they're pushing this in order to track more location data from accounts they can sell. If you're watching this video and you're playing Pokemon Go, I'm sure you can also relate to this in some way, and the fact is, you need to be around a lot of people for these raids to actually work. In 2019, after Niantic released the game Wizarding World, a Pokemon Go-like game based on Harry Potter, Kotaku did a deep dive on the information that Niantic was collecting. They did this by having a number of gamers in Europe request their personal data from Niantic, something that they are able to do under the GDPR law. And then these players voluntarily shared this information with Kotaku for their analysis. Kotaku had this to say. So here's a nice little screenshot of the player data collected, in which they were actually able to receive. So Niantic, of course, tracked the player's location and their data, and of course the dates that they were there. Well, listen to this. From the player's perspective, the Wizarding World is manifesting itself onto the real one. But what's happening behind the scenes, and what does Niantic see? Players give Wizards Unite permission to track their movement using a combination of GPS, Wi-Fi, and mobile cell tower triangulation. To understand the extent of this location data, Kotaku asked for data from European players. All file personal information requests to Niantic under the GDPR, the European digital privacy legislation designed to give EU citizens more control over the personal data. Niantic sent these players all data it had, which the players then shared with Kotaku. The files we received contain detailed information about the lives of these players, the number of calories they burned during a given session, the distance they traveled, the promotions they engaged with. Crucially, each request contained a large file of time-stamped location data, as latitudes and longitudes. In total, Kotaku analyzed more than 25,000 location records voluntarily, shared with us by 10 players of Niantic games. On average, we found that Niantic kept about 3 location records per minute of gameplay of Wizards Unite, nearly twice as many as it did with Pokemon Go. For one player, Niantic had at least one location record taken nearly during every hour of the day, suggesting that the game was collecting data and sharing it with Niantic even when the player was not playing. When Kotaku first asked Niantic why Wizards Unite was collecting location data even while the game was not actively being played, its first response was that we must be mistaken, since the game had said to not collect data while backgrounded. After we provided Niantic with more information about that player, it got back to us a few days later to let us know that its engineering team did identify a bug in the Android version of the client code that led to continue pinging our servers intermittently when the app was still open, but had been backgrounded. The bug, Niantic said, had now been fixed. Because the location data collected by WizUnite and sent to Niantic is so granular, sometimes up to 13 location records a minute, it's possible to discern individual patterns of user behavior as well as intimate details about a player's life. As an experiment, we approached players with insights we gleaned by combing through 5 days worth of their data to find out how accurate our inferences were. You have to imagine, for these games to work, they have to know where you are. It's kind of jarring to think about. But looking at the timestamps and frequency with which this user would return to particular areas, we were able to correctly identify their employer and address of residence. Furthermore, by applying these data points on a map, we could correctly discern the routes this user took from work to home, their daily schedule, and even their eating habits. When we asked them about their propensity to eat Burger King for lunch, they were surprised that we knew that, saying afterwards they were addicted to fast food. So you guys see this comes here? They know where you're eating, you cater and target ads to them, capitalism, yada yada, goes on. While identifying an individual player's routines might tell you a lot about their life, oftentimes looking at deviations from that routine may be more revealing. Another player, Laszlo, usually wakes up between 7 and 8 a.m. at his house in a tree-lined neighborhood on the Buda side of Budapest. At around 9:30, he travels to work, always in a vehicle, always passing a Starbucks where he could catch at least 3 creatures every time. However, on one particular Monday, Laszlo deviated from his predicted path and visited a pharmacy near a shopping mall. While the rest of his day is unremarkable, in the evening, instead of taking his usual midnight stroll to the soccer fields, Laszlo data went dark until the morning. Kotaku asked Laszlo if he had been sick that day. He laughed. The pattern is that I usually walk my dogs quite late to that sports complex. I have 2 kids, so it happens quite often that I have to buy nail drops in that pharmacy when they get a cold. In itself, this deviation was not a due to relation. However, it's hard to imagine that Niantic, with all of its location intelligence, doesn't have records of players traveling to revealing locations that they might not want others to know about. After we reviewed the data, the Burger King living player was surprised to find the game could collect so much, calling the app's behavior scary and unexpected. I mean, look, the idea of how much privacy we actually have in the age of social media and the age of these smart apps and these games that use our location, it is a very slippery slope. How much is too much, or are you already giving enough just by downloading it? A lot of times we download a game, we click OK, allow on all the permissions, and we don't really read the fine text, right? We don't really read the fine print. It's like having to go through a contract every single time. But really, a lot of these apps that are pre-built into your phone, they're already collecting a lot of stuff. And we've seen in the past with Google too. Just speaking right now, I could say the word dog food into my phone, and I'm probably gonna get a advertisement for dog food or, Purina or whatever it's called in the near future just because I heard it. It's a thing. It actively collects data and it's listening. It has to be constant listening, because if you say something like, hey Siri or okay Google, it's going to pick it up and do its smart techniques. You know what I mean? So knowing all this, we start to see why these changes might have been made. We have Niantic pulling scummy business practices by hooking partners onto our new gameplay model that they have essentially acquired. They doubled the price of it, then we're limiting how people even played the game. As we wonder why they would limit this remote play, we start to see the entire picture here. In response to the changes, the hashtag HearUsNiantic started a trend, and many prolific content creators and websites shared open letters against the change. And I want you guys to read this right here. This is an entire community coming together over this. Dear Niantic, we are writing to you on behalf of your customers, the Pokemon Go company. We want to start off by letting you know that we love Pokemon Go. Not just Go, but the Pokemon franchise in general. We are and always will be passionate, loyal, and vocal about our thoughts and concerns. We want Pokemon Go to succeed. We want to be able to play this game, the game we love, for years to come. Unfortunately, we as a whole feel unheard. Time and time again, our questions go unanswered. Our concerns are not addressed, and more importantly, our needs are not taken into proper consideration. As of now, we are specifically referring to the April 6th Remote Raid Pass update. We do not agree with their decision. The majority of us want you to know that limiting remote raids to 5 passes per day will harm rural trainers who lack adequate local community support, trainers with disabilities who physically cannot get outside to play, trainers who have severe social anxiety who struggle mentally to get outside and participate in in-person raids, trainers who work night shifts and cannot participate during the day, single-parent trainers who are managing children, a household, and a career with minimal time to spare. Every form of trainer has equal and every right to play and enjoy Pokemon Go. These communities are just as viable and strong as in-person communities. These communities are unique, special, and have one-of-a-kind attributes. And we know from the bottom of our hearts there is equal room to have both types of communities flourish simultaneously. Incentivize the in-person raids, but do not take away and squander what we've built globally over the past 3+ years. Please, for the second time, hashtag hear us Niantic. Talk to your community, talk to us, let's have a discussion. And that right there is that's what happens. When you have enough people who are angry, and you make a statement like that, the company has to respond. And as we've seen in our previous video, when shit hits the fan hard enough, the company does respond, right? Many of the letters like this were done in good faith, but many other posts were not. This tweet right here from the global community manager of Pokemon Go is exactly what I'm talking about. Got my first death threat. I mean it sincerely, this is my personal account. I look at what people say regarding my line of work, but this is not an official line of communication for Niantic. If you want me to see your feedback, please be constructive. Threats are not. Thank you for all the kind of messages. For the record, I'm still okay, still a crap situation, but I'm fine. Working with internals with the teams to make sure I am safe and protected. Yeah, this is always a big fat no-no. If you do this, you are very not cool. It's important to remember that while Pokemon Go is a joint collaboration between the Pokemon Company International and Niantic, Niantic are the sole developers of the title that manage the title. Niantic is also owned by Google. Obviously, like what happens to many business accounts during times like this, Nintendo replies to nearly every tweet they make may get inundated with troll responses, but they have devolved into hate worse than normal. Niantic issued these changes to Pokemon Go on March 30th, and on the next day, the company account for Niantic issued a video tweet in support for the Trans Day of Visibility. And the responses were so bad and full of hate with the recent change, many delving into straight-up transphobia, that Niantic had to hide numerous responses to the overall positive message. My thoughts on this overall is that community managers should not be receiving death threats. It solves nothing. In fact, it probably makes people less apt to want to make changes because it's like you're bending the knee to them. A proper and organized petition and hashtag, I think, works way better, like that first response I showed you. But, you know, especially in my role as well, I've been a streamer, I've been a competitor, I've been an organizer, I've worn every hat there is to wear in Smash Bros. And as someone who's received death threats of my own, it's clear that the people who do that, it's not everyone, but they're like the most unhinged people. And they're bad eggs and bad apples in the community, and no one wants them there in the first place. Obviously, I've had crab thrown at me. There's been times where I was been playing a match on stream, like me versus Leffen, and after I beat him, or if I played too campy, it happened too. It's one of the worst parts of any gaming community, and hopefully one day it comes to a stop, even though I know it probably won't. But you can be part of the solution. When there's a company doing something wrong, like Nintendo removing Smash from the EVO 2013 stream, you don't send death threats, you just make your voice heard powerfully, united, and rightly. You do all that, it's very, very hard for any company to ignore. And I feel bad for the community managers that got that. Again, Pokemon Go has a very dedicated, very large player base, and there's a right way to do things and a wrong way to do it. So of course, let me know what you think about the backlash Niantic has received. Let me know if there's been any time where you are part of a company or larger project and everyone targeted you for something that the larger group did and how you responded to it. There's got to be better ways of organizing our thoughts into this. And like I said, be better. Be better to those people and always treat others the way you want to be treated. It's an old rule. We learned it a while ago and it applies to everything. Yeah. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. And as always, I'll see you next time.